Hey guys, how's it going? This is Mike from M&R Automotive. Today we have a brand new 2025 Ram RHO and we've installed the curved 40-inch Pro Series light bar. It offers amber DRL as well as powerful white light. The first thing you want to do, we're going to remove the top cover. It's held by nothing but push pins. So these push pins, just get a screwdriver, pry it underneath, kind of twist it a little bit. I have a prying tool, makes it a little simpler. So here I'm going to take all of them out. So now that we got all the push pins out, we can just lift up on the plastic trim, kind of get it unpinched from the sides. So now we can go ahead and unclip the top cover and put this away. So the next thing we want to remove is this top brow, and we have to remove 8mm screws all around. So after removing all the bolts on top, we notice there's two push pins, one on each side. We're going to go ahead and pry these off as well. Go. 1, 2. Now after removing everything, this should just come out. So now we have 4 10mm screws that we have to remove here. So the next thing I want to do, I want to unclip these side panels. So there are clips here along the edge of this panel that we're trying to unclip. I like to use painter's tape in order to protect the surface, because I am going to be prying it with a screwdriver. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this here. Better safe than sorry. I don't want to scratch anything up. So when I peel this, there's latches here. So here you can see that latch, and I'm going to try to pry it with a screwdriver. There we go. If you press down on it like this, it'll unlatch. Okay, so I'm going to work my way up. The hardest one is the bottom latch, because the top ones, they'll release themselves. There we go. There's only 3 clips that we're trying to undo. So now I'm on the passenger side. I'm going to grab my tape just to kind of protect the plastic trim. And I'm going to do the same thing. Now once you unclip the bottom one, it's a lot easier to get the top ones. It's all clips. So now that we got all the clips off, we're going to remove these 3 screws. These are 10mm. Let's do the same thing on the driver's side. So we took out these 3 bolts. And now we just have to unclip the top and we can pull the grill off. So there's a camera that we have to unhook, and the plug will be right here. Let's go ahead and disconnect the camera. So we're going to go ahead and remove this clip. That's going to free up this harness. Okay, so now there's a button here on top. You're going to press it and you're just going to disconnect it. So now the fact that the camera is disconnected and all the hardware, we can raise these clips up and remove the top grill. Pop this up, and we're going to go ahead and remove. That not scratch anything. So now that we have our grill off, let me show you which bolts we're going to use to install our M&R brackets. Okay, so if you peel back the rubber, there's 2 bolts here. We're gonna remove the inner one. So now that we removed it, we're not going to be using these because the hardware is going to get replaced with the M&R bolts. So we're going to put this aside. So this is the second one. Same thing on the passenger side. We're going to remove it and we're going to replace it with M&R hardware. So I'm going to put this aside. Let me show you what you get with the M&R kit. So you get 2 replacement bolts, 2 1-inch spacers, 2 brackets, and then you have 2 light bar brackets. So let me show you how to assemble them. So when looking at the brackets, there's no left and right. The only thing you have to pay attention to is there's a hole and a slot. The hole is going to go on the vehicle, and the slot is going to go where you connect the light bar. So I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm going to grab the long bolt, the spacer, and the bracket. I'm going to thread the bolt into the round hole on the bracket. We're going to leave the oval for adjustment for the light bar. And then we're going to use the 1-inch spacer on the bottom. So now we're going to replace the bolts that we just removed with this setup, and I'm just going to finger tighten it. The main reason I don't want to tighten all the way is because we're going to find out the spacing when we thread the light bar into these ovals. Now we're going to do the same thing on the passenger side. So I'm going to thread the bolt through the round part of the bracket. I'm going to install the 1-inch spacer on the bottom, and we're going to reinstall it. I'm going to tighten it a little bit. And now we're going to install the light bar in between these 2 tabs, and when we have them properly aligned, we'll do the final tie down of these bolts. So now I'm going to show you how to install the Pearl light bar. First thing we have to do, we have to install the side caps. So when I'm installing them, I'm going to have the bend of the bracket go inward on the inside of the light bar. Also, note that the wiring is going to be on the driver's side because that's the location of the auxiliary switches. And one more time, the bracket is pointing on the inside. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So what I'm going to do now, with the brackets on the light bar, I'm going to install the bolts into the oval holes on the other bracket. And what I want to do, I want to move them until the light bar is centered. So I usually take this middle LED and just line it up with the center of the grill. So this seems to be the center of the setup, so I'm going to go ahead and tighten those bolts on the sides. So now that we tighten the brackets, we're going to go ahead and remove this light bar. So that way we can install the grill first, and then we're going to reattach it afterwards because we're going to have these brackets already installed. Make sure you don't miss a step because you do want to make sure that your light bar is perfectly centered with the front bumper. So one thing I do want to point out when reinstalling the grill, that you have to go bottom end first. It has to click in and then it kind of ties in. So with somebody helping you with these panels to move it and maneuver it back in place. So there's plenty of space here between the bolt and the grill, but you just have to direct it to go around the sides here where we took out the 3 bolts on the sides. There we go. So just to show you, there is space between the bracket and the bolt. It is pretty tight, but they're not actually touching. So now that we have the grill back on, let's use the brackets that we just installed to mount the light bar. So we're going to install it using supplied hardware. So now we have reinstalled the grill, installed the light bar, secured everything, and now we're ready for wiring. I'm going to route the wire towards the side. I'm going to pass it through under here, and we're going to feed it up into the engine bay. Alright, so I'm going to feed the wiring right behind here. I'm going to pull it through. I'm going to feed it up into the engine bay. There we go. Got it. Now that we have the wiring in the engine bay, we're connected using factory auxiliary switches. Let me show you how it's done. Alright, so if you're looking at this, this was surrounding the wires. So switch number 1, that's the pink. Here, let me actually take some of this electrical tape off so that way we can separate. So by reading this legend, the pink wire with a dark blue tracer, that's switch number 1. The pink wire with a dark green tracer, that's switch number 2. Pink with a violet tracer, that's switch number 3. And switch number 4 is pink with a tan. So let's go over the wiring of the light bar. So the light bar comes with 3 wires. You have the black wire, which is the ground. You have the red wire, which is the powerful white light. And you have the white wire, which is the amber DRL. We're going to have to use 2 power sources. So we're going to use 2 auxiliary switches that are pre-wired factory. So when looking at the bundle of wires, we're going to use auxiliary switch 1 and 2 for the 2 power sources. Auxiliary 1, that's pink wire with a blue tracer. Auxiliary 2 is a pink wire with a green tracer. Switch 1, let me show you what you're supposed to do. Take off the protective sheathing. We're going to strip, and we're going to put 2 crimp connectors. So this is the first one. At the end of the install, we're going to put heat on them so that way they shrivel up and become watertight connections. So we mentioned auxiliary switch number 1, that's the one with the dark blue line. That's going to get connected to the red wire. And that's the power for the powerful white light. Then the white wire, we're going to connect it to the green tracer, and that's going to give us the amber DRL. Give it a tug to make sure it's a nice connection. So that leaves us with a black wire, and the black wire we're going to actually put a grounding eyelid. So we can crimp one of these eyelids on the black wire. And there's a lot of grounding spots. So we're going to use this bolt for the ground. We're going to take the nut off. We're going to slide the eyelid through it, and we're going to retighten it. So now we can go ahead and test it. All right, now let's go ahead and test them. So switch number 1, that's the powerful white light. And switch number 2, that's the amber DRL. Wow, this thing looks amazing. I like how sleek it is and curved around the grill. Super easy to install, easy to wire using factory auxiliary switches, and puts out a lot of light. You guys are going to absolutely love this product. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this gives you confidence to do this install yourself. And please tune in on our other video where we're taking this out in the night and showing you guys exactly how much light this light bar throws out on the road. I know you guys are going to love the product.